That's always like that awkward. Right, exactly, Dan. Exactly. It's that awkward.
The deer in the headlights.
Are we live?
Hi, everyone there on LinkedIn. We are live, and I am laughing because for this show, I wanted to just go live. No countdown timers, no fancy anything. We're just focused on the content and the people. So hopefully you're here enjoying with us. Definitely leave comments and questions throughout this entire broadcast. But super excited to be back for week 2. Week 2 here in the world of Ecamm Entrepreneurs. If you haven't met me yet, hi, I'm Katie Fox and I'm the Director of Marketing at Ecamm. We have India with us who is rocking Ecamm Entrepreneurs.
Hey.
Special guest in Holloway.
Dan, that was for you. Let's get it.
Dan.
That's my dad dance. I literally do 2 dances. One that I can't really show in public, and the other one which is best like the dad left and right 2-step.
Yeah, that's all right.
That was like my mini dad left and right 2-step.
That's all right.
That's what it was.
It's the live shuffle. It's the live shuffle. This is the LinkedIn live crew, so you know
So, hey,
we need to be a
question to
little.
ask.
We need to be a little bit serious and also a little bit crazy, so that people keep tuning in.
Right.
Keep tuning in and watching us on a regular basis.
I feel like
Exactly.
I'm off to the side here, which is like it's fine. But should I not be like the rose between 2 thorns, or the thorn between 2 roses, or do I just need to be on the side?
It's true. You know what? Here we go. We're gonna change it up. We're gonna change it up live. Are you ready?
Live.
All right, we're moving you.
Hey.
All right. We're gonna go over here just so everyone can see
So this
how
is
easy it is.
Technical overview.
Hey. And just swap our names. There you go. Swap our names. Hey, Lauren. How are you?
Yay.
Week 2. Glad to see you here, Lauren. Thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate you. What is going on? And everyone else who is watching, let us know. Leave us some comments so we can know who you are, where you're checking in from. We love to engage with you guys.
Yeah,
What's
and
up?
we are just
I'm
so
the rose between 2 thorns. I love it.
now you get to be the rose between 2 thorns. But hey,
Yes.
it might get spiky. It might get spiky.
I know.
You might regret.
So it's probably like a dangerous place to be. I'm going to get from both angles.
Right.
So
what are we
I'm
gonna talk about? Come on, hit me.
super excited because we tricked you into coming here to talk all about how to get
We
started
tricked you.
as an entrepreneur, how to grow your business, and how to scale your business. So lots of topics. We might have to have you come back and do, growing and scaling in a separate session, depending on how many questions we have coming at us. But before we jump in, let's have you in the hot seat, in the middle, as the rose. Tell us all about who you are, how you got into business and the world of entrepreneurship, and then a little bit about your new community that you just launched today, right?
Literally just today.
Literally just today.
I haven't even emailed out about it yet. I do these things like on a whim that I just think that's actually a really good idea. I've not done it for a while. I've been meaning to do it for a long time. Screw it, I'm just going to do it. Otherwise, I don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
So I launched a Facebook group with like no wait list. Like no one knows about it. no one knows what it's about at all. And I'm like, yeah, it's launched, so it's out there. So now it's just like a motivation for me to actually get like people in it. So yeah.
Yep.
Very cool.
We hear you. We hear you. That's what that's a little bit what we're like here.
Right. That sounds very familiar.
We were like, we know we got to help entrepreneurs. We got to make a difference here. So
Absolutely.
we just went ahead and launched.
Exactly.
We're rolling on week 2, so you're in good company here. But yeah, let us know. Let us know who is Dan. You're all over the place this week. You're like on every show that I see popping up. So let's give us
What
your.
do we got?
Yeah, I'm. I don't know why. It all seems to happen all in March. It's like everyone's trying to get everything out of the way before Easter.
Right.
So a little bit about me to start with. So where did I get started in business? I tell you where I didn't get started in business. Not probably until my mid-20s, right? So when I was in school, I won't take you back into the depths there, but I basically left school at the age of 17, right? Mainly, and this is like, adult-based hindsight. I went through like a lot of therapy and everything in later life, but I realise now that I left school. It's actually both funny and also really not funny, because I hated it. Like bullied, like the hell. It was just the most horrible environment, right?
Yeah.
Like toxic as feck. And I remember having this conversation. This gives you an idea about my mindset, my mentality, even back then. Was long story short, we went into what's called sixth form, which is where we do A levels, which is what you kind of do after college, so after high school, but before you enter college. Because we've got a slightly different education system over here in the UK.
Yep.
So I did like the first year of A levels, and again, I still hated it. And I kept on missing classes, and I was just like, ugh, I just didn't want to be there. And the head of the sixth form, which is where you do the A levels, he called me into his office one afternoon. He was like, basically having a go at me. He was a bit of an arsehole. Sorry, asshole. If you use Americans, arse means ass. Garage means garage, and so
Okay, very good.
So
We're getting
if
our
my English kind of confuses you.
right.
So anyway, so he brought me into the room and he was having a go at me, kind of like trying to do the whole kind of like alpha thing, and I'm like doing that to him back, but not, really just thinking about it. And he said, "You realize you don't have to be here?" And I was like, "You what?
Come again?
I don't. I mean, I can actually leave." He's like, well, I'm not telling you to leave, but you can leave if you want.
He's
and I'm
like, wait,
how do I do that?
Right.
Like, like seriously, how do I do that? And he's like, well, you just tell me you want to leave, and you fill out a form, and then you don't have to come back. And I'm like, okay, cool, let's do that.
I'm with it. This is amazing.
And I literally, I went home to my mum, and my dad was like, he's a builder. I'll tell you about it in a minute. My dad's a builder in construction for you Americans, and I feel like I have to kind of like translate as I go.
Yeah.
So
it's good.
He was off at work, and my mum was at home, and I got home, and I was like, right, sit down. You need a cup of tea, right? And I've just got something to tell you.
So in America, it'd be a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Coffee.
Cool.
Okay. Tea. Tea is like tea bags. They come in bags, so you actually have this little strainer thing because you have like fresh tea. We do that as well.
Got it.
That's weird.
Got it.
I don't drink tea myself, and I like it. Anyway, so I was talking to mum. I was like, right, I've left school, but it's okay. I've got a plan. And she's like, okay, what's your plan? It goes, well, I'm going to go and get an apprenticeship because I read in the library after I left school, went to the library and said, like, what do you do after school, but when you don't want to go to university? Because the concept of university, I was just like, no, hell no. Don't want to do more school. So I read about apprenticeships. They sound like a good idea. So I'm going to do that. And she's like, okay.
What do we got?
Do you need help with anything? And I'm like, no, I'm good. Literally the following week, I started an apprenticeship in engineering, which 6 weeks later led me on to my first job in an internet provider, which was even more of a toxic environment because I went from the playground. There's a point to my story here. Right? So I went from one toxic environment into another toxic environment, which I thought at the time was actually really good. All right. So I went from playground into 300 calls a day on a call center for a business ISP, teaching me how to basically do like dial up lease lines, like connectivity, co-located server hosting, like
Katie's already
techie
like, Katie's
stuff.
like, stop right there.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Like serious tech. This is back in the days when a 256 kilobyte a second leased line would cost you about 100 grand a year.
First of all, you said kilobyte. The fact that you said kilobyte and not megabyte or gig, because I have a gig up and a gig down. I don't even, too slow for me.
So it's tiny, right?
Right.
But this is like back in 20 years ago. But at the time I was like, yeah, I'm in the business world, I'm in the real world, people kind of like teaching me stuff. I mean, the fact that they've gone out and been smoking weed and they're high while they're teaching me, I was like, yeah, it's perfectly normal. Really, now I think
it's totally fine.
That's not normal.
Right.
The senior
That's
people who are on more money, exactly, that's not normal at all. The people who are on like way more money, who are teaching the people who are teaching me and like leading the business, they were recovering from basically being coked up half the time from the night before. And I'm like, okay, so now I think that's an even more toxic environment because there's like me, 17, naive as hell, being taught by these people, and I'm like, yeah, that's not normal.
Yeah.
But then I started my own business because I was an IT manager, fast forward a bit, by the age of 20. That was my first environment where it was actually a positive environment. It was like a business owned by one guy and his business partner, very kind of like family orientated. And I went into that business and I was like,
night and day.
This is what it's supposed to be like.
This is, and do you know, and this is my point. After all like different toxic environments, kind of like telecoms businesses, multiple acquisitions, I mean, our first 3 years of business alone, that taught me basically what business shouldn't be like.
Right.
And when I went to the one that's actually more like a family environment, it was literally like working in an environment that was literally like working on building sites with my dad, right? Because when my dad was like bringing us up, my brother and I, we would go to jobs and things after school with my dad. You know, if he hadn't finished a job, we would go to finish a job with him. We'd help him out. Really, it's just like handing him tools because he wouldn't trust us to like do work in people's houses. But we'd just like sit there and hand him tools, and he would just spend time with us. It's his way of like spending time with his boys. But it was all about relationships, right? So my dad, he would have this thing where he would say, like, if I dared step into someone's home without taking my shoes off, he'd be like, "Can I swear on this, by the way? If I'm quoting someone, can I swear?"
Katie's like, sure.
So in quoting my father, because obviously I'm very polite, my dad would be like, "Son, what the fuck are you doing?" It's like, "Take your shoes off."
Right.
And I'm like, but it's got wooden flooring. He goes, "I don't care. Take your fucking shoes off." And I'm like, "Well, but why? It's a wooden floor." And he goes, "It's not your house."
Right.
I'm like, "Okay." So I'd take my shoes off. You know, we'd always lay down, like whether it's carpet or wooden flooring, anything, you'd always like lay down all the mats, all the tarpaulins. He'd take plastic up to the sides of the walls. He would be like meticulous about someone's home. And he'd always say, like, it's not your home, it's theirs. But he never really kind of like articulated it more than that, because to him it was like, it's their home, that's not your home. So treat it with the respect it deserves, you know? When I went into this other business in my own career, I was an IT manager for it was a network of mortgage advice businesses. And as soon as you walked into the offices, it was all, there was thank you cards all over the walls. There was like plants and flowers. There was, water and snacks. And it was like walking in someone's living room. And it was full just of literally one-to-one relationships and helping people. And having the respect that deserves. So like, these people, clients would go into their offices for mortgage advice to buy their home, which is basically going to be their forever home, which is the biggest expense on a monthly basis they're ever going to have
of their lifetime.
Exactly.
He was like, preach. Yeah,
exactly. I'm
exactly.
like, go ahead, Dan. Talk my language.
But like, if there was a deal that was out there that they, as independent mortgage advice people, didn't actually have the ability to sell, and there was someone down the road who had a deal that would be better for the client, every single time without fail, they would send that client down the road to someone who was cheaper or was better for them. And they did that as like a matter of course, whether it cost them business or not. And they just kept on doing it. And then, like, it's almost like a coaching session in itself.
It's good. I'm here for it.
When I did my own business, which was the best part of my 20s, I was running my own managed service provider business as well. I did that for many, many years. I embodied the same kind of mentality. But at that point, I realized that I didn't, whilst I had the ability to run the business, I didn't have the mental, I can see that with hindsight now, I didn't realize it at the time. I didn't have the mental mindset or the frame of mind to be a business owner. I had the entrepreneurial spark, but I didn't have, I wasn't in the mental place to be a business owner, to be responsible for people's wages, to be, the leader that I needed to be. While I can articulate that now, I didn't have that capacity then, because I had all this like baggage and crap from the years before. And at the time I thought, do you know what, I need to get out, because I know there's a lot more I need to learn. I didn't know at the time what I needed to learn, but I realized I needed to learn a lot more. So at the time, randomly, I was getting headhunted by this venture capital backed enterprise, this venture that was owned by a venture capital firm here in London. And I got headhunted to run national growth for that business. And I was like, yeah, sounds right up my street. So I ended up basically running this kind of high growth, which was ridiculous. It was like 2 years of just mad, crazy scale. I think when I joined, there was like 12 like branches, like locations. When I left, there was 60 and about 90 franchises, which we did in about 2 years. It was insanity. And I mean, I had to strip out all of the tech. I stripped out all the operations. I stripped out all the processes. I sacked an entire team, relocated the head office. I mean, you name it, just madness, right? So did all that in a 2-year period. And then went on to another business, which was the international growth of a hosting and infrastructure firm. Again, venture capital, but it was actually private equity backed. And all of this kind of crazy scale. It was all like really, really good from a leadership point of view. But actually, I realized after I left, I actually needed therapy for about a year after I left the last one, because of, again, how toxic and crazy and mad it was. And when I look back on that, they didn't do the things that the family environment did. They didn't do things the way my dad used to do them. They basically just bullied shit out of people and paid loads of ad spend, chucked a hell of a lot of money at ads and pay-per-click and branding. They got cumulative gains, kind of fudged the rest of it, exited for crazy amounts of money, and then walked away and be like, your problem, not mine. That's basically what venture capital does.
It's such a common story. I feel like I've heard that a number of times before. And it's, it's hard. I think that's hard. I think when I think of like scaling a business, I feel like that's sort of the panic or the do not do this that always sits in the back of my mind. I'm interested to hear more, because I'd love to figure out, like, as the small company, as the nice customer focused, employee focused company, how do you avoid that and move to scale without it turning into just a, super quick
crapshoot
and
fire
See, this is
money grabs.
This is me. This is me getting to the epiphany, right? Which was funny enough. I was interviewed by Chad and Daniel on their live show a couple of months ago, and those guys, they're very quirky, a bit nuts. But one of the things they said to me was like, they hadn't interviewed someone who'd actually gone through so many business iterations and names and things as I had done. And I was like, yeah, that's true, because my journey has been very, very difficult for me to kind of navigate, like, what really is the crux of how to start and grow and scale, right? Because I've had so much exposure and so much kind of experience in the ways, mainly how not to do it. It's taken me a couple of years to figure out like how to do it. And when you really boil it down, most of what people teach you in business school, in startups, in accelerators, in kind of like traditional business education, almost all of it, and I mean genuinely almost all of it, is utter crap. Like, genuinely, you just don't need to know it.
It's not real life scenarios. Right, exactly.
Yeah. It's not. I mean, I keep looking at it because I need one of those teleprompter things that's like all
that's what I have.
screen.
Looking right at you at the teleprompter.
I need one of those. I'm in my living room, my bedroom. Sorry, my wife's downstairs in the living room watching a Poirot at the moment with a cup of tea and a biscuit, being very British.
So jealous of your wife.
Yeah, she loves Agatha Christie. But the thing what I realized was my dad and the guy called Nick Wood, who was the guy who actually ran the mortgage business. Those really are the two business owners that I've known throughout my entire life. Well, not my entire life, my dad my entire life, Nick since I was 19. Nick has always done business the same way. My dad has always done business the same way. They have always been progressively and steadily successful in their own way. They've not been like crazy multi-billionaires, but they've all been successful. But the most important thing is that, which is why I realize now they're the people who I lean on the most when I question what I'm going to be doing in my own business or the advice I'm going to give others, is I actually ask myself, what would my dad do? What would Nick do? Because throughout my dad's entire kind of experience with my dad, which is my entire life, and through 20 years of knowing Nick as well, they have always done right by their clients, even if it means being a detriment to themselves. And they have, whilst they've had challenges along the way, that has always seen them through. And when I see people, and I'm going to be delicate slightly in how I say this, but when you see a lot of influencers, let's say, out there, and people who are very well known, well respected out there, even the people who you think at face value are very good, and even the people who are raved about by their fans, the vast majority of them are basically manipulating and funnel hacking you. And that, for many people, they try to emulate what these influencers and the influence they bring. They try to emulate that mentality and that way of doing business. And I think that's what a lot of people struggle with, because it's the same in the startup world. Startup founders, they try and emulate the founders that came before them. And the problem with that is that those people aren't you, right? And I'm a very, very big believer in, you do not have competition. The only time, and this has taken me a while to figure this out, by the way, the only time you have competition, and the only place where that competition resides, is in the eyes of your audience at that significant point in time when they're trying to decide who to work with. And that is the only time, in the only position, where competition actually exists. And every other time around that, you're basically just being you, and basically being consistent with that. And I know it sounds very, very basic. And again, it's taken me a few years to kind of realize it's genuinely, it's not more complicated than that. And when you're trying to grow a business, people buy from people. We know that to be true. They don't care about brands. So if I'm thinking about doing a live stream, I'm doing a live stream with Katie in India. I'm not doing a live stream with Ecamm. I'm doing a live stream with you two. If you worked for like Poo Inc., for example, if you decide to move over to Poo Inc., whatever that Poo Inc. does, and you said, do you want to come on a live stream with me? I say, yeah, sure. Because you work there, because I trust you. And that's it. Because it's the relationship. When you're running a business, again, very, very basic, very, very simple. All you have to do is be able to solve a problem for someone.
So 100%, and it doesn't even matter what channel or where you're doing it. I feel every valuable piece of business advice that I have ever had in my equally weird career all the way through to where I am now has always been focused on, how can you help people? How can you bring value, answer their questions, find out what their questions are, and create content and solutions and products and services to help people. And that is the number one way that you are going to succeed. Help your employees, help your customers, just find what those problems are and help people. And it's funny all the different iterations that can take. And I love that. Shout out to Lemuel, who is one of our Ecamm Live fan members, but he always says that we're living right now in a giving economy, and I feel like that finally sort of there's like a name for that whole piece of advice, where it's, if you can figure out how to give back, how to solve problems, you will find that growth, and that slow and steady growth that continues to be focused on that is worth way more than chasing after 7 figures or looking after, hundreds and thousands of subscribers. None of that is going to matter if you can't solve people's problems and be the go-to person that they need or want or think to come to when they're having those kinds of problems.
I tell you the components that I've figured out. I say figured out, I think a lot of other people have figured it out, but in my own language and in my brain, you basically need to be able to solve a problem for someone. You need to be able to sell that problem to someone for what is essentially a fair trade. Not too much, not too little. It's a fair trade for the both of you. And this is, again, it's nothing revolutionary. Cave people have been doing it way before we invented the wheel or fire or anything like that. So if I have an entire woolly mammoth that I just killed with my team, my tribe. If I have an entire woolly mammoth, I'm not going to say trade that entire woolly mammoth for one club. I'll be like, no, I want the entire bunch of clubs over there and half your village, because this mofo over here is going to feed you for about 3 years. That to me is fair trade. And so it needs to be fair trade. So you solve a problem for fair trade, and that basically gives you growth, right? And if we think about growth is just, if you think of it like a graph, growth is just a linear line, right? So it's steady month on month growth. That's just growth. If anyone tries to tell you that growth and scale are the same thing, they're wrong. And if anyone tries to tell you that, then point them in my direction. I'll correct them. I don't care whether they're a 9-figure kind of successful book writing entrepreneur, author of the New York Times or whatever. I don't care. They're wrong.
Yep.
Because scale is an exponential curve, right? So linear line, exponential curve, growth, scale.
Yep.
It's very, very, very different. And the only thing that you need to do to get scale is that when you have a formula that works for you, i.e. a problem you can solve and a product that you can solve that with, or service, whatever it may be, and you can do that consistently and you can get growth from that, then the only thing you need to do to scale that is to not overcomplicate it, not listen to crap that you don't need to listen to, and you need to apply some kind of leverage to that product to get it into a hockey stick. That's it.
Yep.
And leverage basically means, for anyone who's not clued up on what leverage is literally you get more out than you put in. So if you create a digital course, for example, you can sell that one time, you can sell it 1,000 times, you can sell it 1,000,000 times, doesn't matter. That is a leverageable product. Selling hourly rate bookkeeping services is not a leverageable product because you have either 720 or 744 hours in a month, depending whether it's 30 or 31 days in a month, and you need to sleep and eat and do human things.
Right.
So you are going to have a limit.
You kind of need those things. Yep.
Exactly. So even if you hired an entire team, again, you have complexities and you have problems. We'll talk about that in a second as well. You have problems around using people to achieve scale, because it's not something you can just turn a linear line into an exponential curve when you're talking about people, because people come with overheads and complexities and added complications. You can't just exponentially shift that into a different gear. But those three things are very, very simple. And the only component that's left, which is where most people fail, is the ability to tell what you can do and how you can actually do it to someone through some kind of a narrative, which the most successful one tends to be story. And most people are terrible at telling stories, because they make it all about them, and it's not about them, it's about their audience. And again, when you look at all of the education that's out there, if I say about storytelling, someone will say, Donald Miller's Story Brand, that's a brilliant book. Or they'll be like, I read Russell Brunson's .com Secrets. I mean, he's brilliant at explaining how to do stories. And they'll rattle off all these different authors. There's a ton of them. Those are just the first two that popped into my head. All of those books and all that education teaches you about know, like, and trust and storytelling. And whether you're talking know, like, and trust, whether you're talking about awareness, consideration, decision, if you're a bit more corporate, whether you're talking about, someone's bespoke framework, which is basically just a renamed version of those three things, all of them you can trace way back to, I think the earliest written version of it that I'm aware of is by Aristotle, who wrote about ethos, pathos, and logos.
Way back. Way back to basics. Yeah.
Way back. Like Aristotle. Like Wikipedia, Aristotle. You'll find out. Old. Right? Like
equals old. Yeah.
Old.
Yeah.
But if you go way back further than that, you're talking about theologians and, religious texts, and you're talking about the Dead Sea Scrolls. You're talking about, the Egyptian Book of the Dead, which is bizarrely it's not a book at all. It's actually a collection of scrolls and spells. It's not a book in the slightest, as much as the Mummy movie made it out like it was a book that's all nice and fancy and everything. It's not a book at all. It's a bunch of scrolls. But it's all storytelling.
Yeah.
Cave people, storytelling.
Yeah.
And even if you look at cave person drawings, it's basically someone who has some kind of a challenge or something, and they want to get to a goal. They don't think they're going to be able to get there. And they reach a decision that they meet a guide, and that guide kind of shows them the way. And then there's struggles, and there's challenges and there's obstacles to overcome, and they follow what the guide tells them to do, and they achieve that outcome, and there's this pivotal moment that they may succeed, they may not, who knows, and then eventually they either succeed or not, and they hit the goal or they don't. Most of the time they do, let's face it. Everyone has a happy ending. Let's not go there. And that's a story, right? Now, I could have been talking about Finding Nemo. I could have been talking about, I don't know, Luke Skywalker in Star Wars. I could have been talking about any movie under the sun. They all follow pretty much the same script. And when you boil it down, if you do nothing else apart from tell a story to someone, which is all about them, about how their life can be transformed or the challenge that they can achieve an outcome or can be solved through the product that you sell, that you can build trust with through consistently communicating with them, and then you deliver it like a human talking to another human, not like a human speaking to a robot, because let's face it, no one wants to do that. If you can do those things, you have a growing business. And if that product is a leverageable product, then you have a scalable business. All of the other shite around that people tell you need to do, you don't need to do. Like literally, it just takes the energy and the attention away from you doing those things that I just explained well. Everything else is crap.
So I have a quick question. Hold on. So Katie, can you see if we're still live? Because we haven't gotten any comments or anything. And I was looking on LinkedIn and I don't see anything. It started it?
It says we are still live, but
I was trying to find it on on LinkedIn and I can't. And I'm like, that's a little weird. We haven't gotten any comments.
It is a little weird. All right, I will look while you guys are.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm having a look on.
Yeah, I checked like the regular post where we were tagged. It does say like the post itself says live, but if you click on it, it's like blank. So I think I don't know.
Well, I guess we're going to keep.
Video is unavailable or has been removed.
Fine.
You got that, Dan? I didn't see that. I didn't see. But I didn't see anything. It was just black. So I'm like, oh no.
We're still listed as live, so we're still at least saving a video on my computer.
Right, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna say we keep going. We're not gonna get live questions, but we can post this video after. I think there's a lot of great talking points here, and we'll find out what happens. We're not playing any music, and I don't think we've said anything that we got us from.
No, I don't know. It was weird, right? And usually you get a notification.
That was my fault.
Yeah.
Maybe swearing. Yeah, we'll find out because we definitely were, and it still says we are, but going through a restream, so I don't know. Maybe there was a weird glitch or something.
Yeah. I just wanted to make sure that we at least knew, right, how to handle it if that was the case. And if we're still live, I don't know, message one of us. You guys are friends with one of us somewhere on Facebook. So message us, let us know, send me a direct message. If not, then you're watching the recorded content and this is what happens. You keep going.
Exactly.
I assume
that's where were we?
I'm looking through my
all the other shite you could ignore. That's where we left off, wasn't it?
Right.
That's a mic drop moment in itself. We can end it.
Right. Yeah. There you go.
We're going to post the video afterwards. I'm gonna tell.
Yeah.
Doc says that LinkedIn is tripping, so I don't know what that means, but we'll find out the details later.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Very good. All right.
No worries.
All right. Hit us up with some questions, India. You said you had a question. Or is it your question?
Yeah. Well, that was the question, but we were talking earlier. So, Dan, obviously you gave us great rundown of your experiences, and I agree with the customer service. It's so funny. I was talking about that earlier. Customer service is ingrained in my core. That's where I come from, right? Because you said people buy from people, but it's also people buy from people they like. And right, so your prices can't be whatever your cost shouldn't be astronomically priced higher. However, I've learned that even if it is priced over someone else, right, higher than someone else, at the end of the day, if you have that relationship and the person trusts you, that trust alone is worth the increase in price. Go ahead.
Yes and no.
Within reason.
Okay. All right.
Let's
talk
get
about
where
it.
You're coming from.
Let's talk about it.
So, in my view,
yeah,
which is the polite English way of saying I think you're wrong.
Okay. All right. Okay. I like it. I'm with it.
I'm kidding. It's not really, because there's so many ways of skinning a cat, right? And
Yeah.
I completely get where you're coming from, and yes, I totally agree. However, for me, it comes into a point of efficiency, but it
Right.
also relates to a point about relationship as well. So, like, one of the things I was just explaining actually, when I mentioned about pathos, ethos, and legos, and know, like, and trust, awareness, consideration, decision, whatever label you want to give it, it's basically people becoming aware of you, people getting to like you, and people trusting you.
Right.
Which, if you boil that down to Aristotle's point, it's solving a problem for someone which creates some kind of a transformation, fulfills a need, and you do that through an emotional connection. That's
Right.
pretty much boiling down the Aristotle version, which is, again, very similar to know, like, and trust. It's pretty where it's come from, and it's all about humans connecting and trusting and putting their faith almost into another person. So people say, you buy from someone, but you've got to first buy into that person first, right?
Right.
So when it comes to efficiency, I personally don't think that you actually need someone to know you or like you in order to trust you. I think people can trust you before that, and actually the first two can actually come afterwards if they need to come up at all. If you can actually get someone to trust you first off, then that's all you need.
Right.
And if you go the other length, if you try and get people to know you and like you as well, then often that can actually trip people up and actually cause problems in their business more than they actually create solutions. Because if you think about what a lot of people do, they say, well, I need to create lots of content to get people to know me, and I need to start engaging with them and getting to know them, understand them, and I kind of build that community, and I need to build that environment up where they can actually feel this trust building with me. And there's a lot of people who are out there teaching that kind of stuff, which I get.
Right.
And what that really is that's funneling, right? And I'm a big fan of funnels. I'm not a fan of manipulative funnels or kind of getting people into like emotional buying states. I hate the hell out of that. But funnels make sense, because when you look at it from the point of view of a top of funnel is effectively people, we think of a funnel. So top of funnel is people who are pain aware, right? So when someone's pain aware, they are acutely aware of what pain they're suffering at the moment, but they don't know why and they don't know how to solve it. Middle of the funnel is people who are problem aware. So they know what the pain is, they know what the problem is, but they haven't got a solution yet, and they don't know what the solution is. Right. And then you've got the solution aware people at the bottom who are really to the point of a buying decision, who are acutely aware of the pain, acutely aware of what's causing the pain. They know what the solution is, and they're just looking for someone to buy from. Yeah. So when it comes to content, if you put out no other content than the fact of, I am the go-to person to solve this problem, and this is how I solve it with this solution, and you get loads of others who are trusted by your community who say, you've got this problem, this is a solution, I trust that person to solve it for you. Right. Go and speak to them. Absolutely. That is literally all they need. They don't need to know you. They don't need to like you. They can just know nothing about you other than the fact that that person is trusted by someone who they trust, and they will give you money. And the money they give you will be directly proportionate to not the value that you're delivering, but the transformation that they perceive they're getting from that solution. Yeah. Now that could be a couple $100, it could be $10,000, it could be $1 million, depending on who the audience is. But money at that point is irrelevant. It just comes back to that fair trade point of people seem to think that my product needs to be a fair position in a market against my competition or against the problem that I'm solving for someone. And I'm like, no. It's not that. Your price needs to be directly related to, like I said, the value that you are giving and the perceived value that they have in receiving the solution to the problem they're experiencing, the transformation that gives them later down the line. But it's that next step, i.e. down the line, that people pay the extra for. But too many people, they try and price themselves at the step before that. And that's why a lot of people don't make very much money, and which is why a lot of businesses
Right.
fail, because they
Right.
don't get that point. I'm not
Yeah.
sure if that answers the question. I've just spent 5 minutes waffling, but
No, I think that's interesting. There are some nuggets to pull out there, because I think that a lot of it is, once you can get a few of those first customers in who have bought in and trusted you, that, going back to leverage, like, that is your ability then, if you can convince them to leave some reviews,
Right.
or
Right.
help you to build that trust, then you're right that you don't need necessarily to have those customers coming in knowing you or liking you, but that really in many ways is because they know and like the other people who have already trusted in you, right?
Exactly.
So you've built a different kind of situation where you're really playing off, whether that's reviews or videos or word of mouth, some sort of way where you're taking advantage of the trust that you've built with initial customers, or with influential customers,
Right.
to build trust.
And that's why it's so hard and so slow to spin up in business. It's because you could spend 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years, whatever, spinning up. When you get to that point where you start getting those recommendations,
it blows off.
And then off you go.
So in my world, where I come from, right, we call that centers of influence, depending on where you're talking about, right? Your referrals, it's a center of influence. If it's someone, so like I'm a mortgage officer, right? So if I have an attorney, or if I have a realtor, or I have whoever it is that's in the industry, and they know me, and then they say, okay, you need financing, go to India, and they're constantly referring me, like you said, that person who needs the financing, if they have a relationship with the attorney, and now the attorney says that they trust me, my attorney now is a center of influence, because they are influencing the client to come to me, right? So it's like, look, literally a circle, right? And then you're in the circle, and you have all these people that are referring your business to you. And that's what it is. And you hit the nail on the head. Even at that point, the buildup as well, it takes time to nurture your relationships, to create relationships. And it's not just creating, then it's nurturing your relationships. And it can be, depending on the business, like on a business like mine, it can be slow to start. But then once you have your centers of influence, it's working for itself, right? You just keep doing what you're doing. So kind of the way you said with your father and with Nick, their work then spoke for themselves, right? And they continued to deliver in the same exact way. And with delivering in the same exact way, it was a well-oiled machine where the centers of influence just did the work for them, and they just executed. It was like, okay, no problem. And I think that that's huge for entrepreneurs to really understand. And I think for me, that's my opinion from my perspective, where I have to spend most of my time in, and make sure that I block off time to, one, nurture my current centers of influence, but then continue to pull from new avenues. Because an attorney may retire or move to another state tomorrow. I should have a stand-in, so that it's a constantly building pipeline. So
yeah, she's constantly delivering on that promise. And as you're able to set up that chain, then, then that's where things like, email automations, or, other tools can come into play, where it can say, thank you so much for choosing blah, blah, blah service or product. We love you took a moment to leave a review, and that can help you sort of trigger that initially. And then you can follow up with, with a personal touch, or however you want to play that. But as you think through like what that customer journey or that customer experience is, how important it is at that point to really make sure that you are getting that feedback from them. And it's not easy all the time to ask.
Right.
For sure.
Oh, can we pull that thread for a second, actually?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I love that you brought that up. So something else that I get asked, and people say I get asked this all the time. Before they say something, they don't get asked all the time. I actually genuinely do get asked this all the time.
Right.
So people ask me questions constantly about some kind of a tactical thing.
Yeah.
Right. So whether that's like, how do I use hashtags or whatever? What's the best camera to get for this? What system do I use for that? And what's the best calendar booking application to use? How do I do blah? How do I do this? Where should I host my, but like, name the question. And I mean, yes, I can give answers to all of those things, but it annoys the hell out of me sometimes, because I'm just like, for the love of God, please just take a step back and ask yourself why the hell you're asking that question in the first place.
Right.
And when you speak to them and you boil it down, they don't care where their website's hosted. They don't care about hashtags. They don't care about the camera they use. They don't care about all sorts of stuff. Most of the time, they don't even care about getting revenue into their business. They care about paying their bills, and they care about going on holiday, and they care about spending time with the family. They care about being good parents. That's the stuff they care about. But the step, the tactical step of actually implementation of getting there, I think a lot of people put way too much focus on doing the thing. And it's not because necessarily they're needing to do the thing. What a lot of the time that is it's procrastination away from that which they find uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And there's so many people, there's a there. It's kind of I say when I start talking about cake.
I'm thinking that I definitely am guilty of that a lot of the time. I get real focused on my like to-do list, or like the, haven't done enough training in the tools, or, need to get this, that, and the other thing out, and not enough time sort of on the bigger picture why behind it, or the strategy, or on the, and probably there somewhere hidden, because I am an overthinker and a planner, but it is good to kind of go back and really make sure that you do know why and what, like, is that creating an efficiency and saving you time so that you can then focus more on your customers? Is that like, why are you doing the thing that you're doing, or asking for the tactical thing, or what was the thought initially behind all of that? For sure.
Right.
Yeah. Like, and for a lot of the time, it's honestly, it's not anything to do with doing the thing, especially in the early times of growing your business. And I'll give you an example. I was in a Facebook group. I can't remember what group it was. But there was a lady who, she posted this question about how to set up automation in MailChimp. And I haven't used MailChimp for ages. I have no idea, but I'm sure it couldn't be that hard. Because let's face it, it's MailChimp. And if I can figure out how to kind of like host global networks of, kind of hosting systems, then I'm pretty sure I can figure out mail automation. It's not going to be rocket science. So I saw this post that she put, and she started saying about, how to do this automation thing. And I started reading some of the comments, and there's like 20 or 30 comments in there. And there were VAs trying to sell their services. There were like so-called techie people trying to explain how to do it in a mail platform of which they're an affiliate for. They're trying to get her to migrate over. There were people who were trying to sell her consultancy. There was a marketing company in there trying to sell her like outsourcing things. And I'm like,
I feel so bad.
Right.
What the hell, man? It's just like the vultures just bullying the hell out of this poor lady. And she was clearly, in the comments she was giving, she was clearly overwhelmed. She said numerous times, I don't understand this stuff. I'm just looking for someone to help me.
Yeah.
I haven't got that much money. It's very early days. There's a lot of stuff going on in my personal life. I think someone in there was even so much of a dick that they actually suggested that they can basically get their services now and she can pay for it later, which probably means they're just telling her to put it on a credit card. And I'm like, well, you're an ass. Sorry, ass. And I just messaged the lady. I was like, look, tell me what you're after and why you're trying to do it. We'll jump on a phone call and I'll talk you through it and we'll get it done. And she's like, that's all I wanted. So I was like, so I jumped on a call with her for probably about 20 minutes or so. It wasn't long. And I said, well, what are you trying to do? And she was running a local networking group for, I think it was like a network marketing kind of thing. She was a bit funny about saying network marketing because, MLM and everything, people are a bit funny about it. I actually think it's quite a decent place for some people to start, but some people are funny about it because of the bad players in that world. But so she was talking about this local networking group, and she said, well, when we do meetings, there's between 15 to 20 people per week. And I'd like to send a note out to them thanking them for joining and asking them how I can help them. I was like, okay. And I was like, how many times do you run it in a month? She goes, twice a month. I was like, okay, so 15 to 20 people twice a month. So 30 to 40 people in a month. She's like, yeah. I was like, okay. And you're trying to automate that? She's like, yeah. And you want it to be personalized, and you want to do like one-to-one, building a relationship with them so they can come back and build up your audience and your business off the back of that. She's like, yeah. I said, in a personal, unique way for each one. She's like, I see where you're going with that. I was like, yeah. Okay. And then she says, it's 40 emails a month. So that won't even take me an hour to do. I was like,
right, exactly. Like
it
one
won't.
a day. I mean, at most 2 a day or something. Like really,
Yeah.
how long does that take you? All of 2 minutes or whatever, right? Yeah.
Exactly. And she said, well, why am I looking down the road of like automation? I mean, why do you think I've been doing that? I was like, what's the fear you have? Well, I said, what's the fear you have when you think about emailing these people? She goes, I'm afraid some of them will say no. I was like, okay. And if they say no, are there other people who you can invite and nurture into that world? She's like, yeah, of course. So then is it a big deal?
That's it. Right.
And she just took a deep breath and she went, no. And if they don't want to work with me, I don't want to force them either. And I was like, there you go. I'll just save you a hell of a lot of time and money. It's like, you don't need to do that crap. Like at all.
It's so funny, even with the no's, right? People are so afraid of rejection and no's, and especially coming from a sales environment. In one of the roles that I managed, I worked at Radio Shack. So that was an electronic company that went out of business for Dan, for you don't know, in UK, went out of business. But anyway, my employees were commission based.
Back up a second. You're telling me Radio Shack doesn't exist anymore? When that happened?
No, they don't exist anymore. They haven't existed
I saw it in like
for
80s
10
movies.
years. Yes, exactly. They right. They haven't existed for like 10 years, Dan. They went out of business.
Short Circuit actually got himself fixed.
Did you see Dan's heartbreak? He was like, "Wait a minute, India."
I wish I had like a sad violin sound effect, but I don't.
Wait, I do. I have this one. This was Dan.
You just ruined every 80s movie for me.
I know. But anyway, I used to tell my employees, they were commission-based employees, and I used to tell them, the sooner you get comfortable with understanding that you get paid to get no's, you don't get paid to get yeses. I pay you to get no's. So if you get 100 no's, that's what I used to tell them. Yeah. And they would look at me like it was the most bizarre thing. And then I would tell them, if you get 100 no's, that means that you did your job. That's what your job responsibilities are. For today, I want you to tell me that you got 100 no's. And if you got one yes out of that 100 no's, you were successful, and then we win. You don't get paid to get yes. And you would see, right, like as I would coach them and make them just get used to the no, and that's a part of your job, right? They would just flourish. And then it would be like, all right, no, there's 10 other customers in the store. I need to get to every single one, because of those 10, 9 of them are going to say no. Which one is going to be the one that says yes? That's the one I want to invest in, right? And a lot of people don't see that. And I think for us, whether it's sales or whatever it is that you're from a business perspective, people are going to tell you no. And like that lady said to you, Dan, then at that point, if they say no, do you really want to work with them? Like, right? Because how invested are they going to be? You want that person that says yes and wants to work with you because you can build and flourish, so.
And can I ask you a question on that, actually? So
yes,
before you started saying what you did about their job being about getting no's,
yep,
what kind of things would they do to avoid speaking to people, to avoid those no's?
Oh my God. So at Radio Shack, they'd like start stocking shelves. The customer would come in, and if so, like, they would sell Radio Shack, we sold cell phones. So if a person was standing at the cell phones, first of all, they would look at me to see if I was looking at them, because I'm like, how long is it going to take you to go greet them? Right. So they'd look. Yeah. And if they saw that I was looking, they'd go greet someone else, or they had to use the bathroom, or they would avoid everything possible instead of being direct and to the point. Like, that's all it is. Be direct and to the point. One of the things that I also learned, and it's true, chances are they came in there for curiosity, right? So whether it was killing time because they're like on a Radio Shack, right? There's other stores on the block, but something made them come into that location. So the same thing, something made this person interact with you as an entrepreneur and as a business person for curiosity, right? It's up to you as that business person to find out what that curiosity is. Find out, do you have something that can match that curiosity? Can you, or like you said, Dan, right? Can you solve their problem? Yep. And sometimes it's not a good fit. And if it's not a good fit, going back to your mortgage example, You may not be able to solve the problem every single time, but what I think will make you a better business person is to acknowledge that up front and then still have a solution. It may not be your solution, but you can still provide a solution of, hey, you know what? I don't have a mortgage product for you, or I don't have this electronic for you, but go to Best Buy. Although Radio Shack might have done that too much, and that's why we went out of business, right? Like,
Too many
but you get my point, right? Like, still having a solution, although it's not the solution you wanted, because then at the same token, that client will remember, if anything, they're going to remember, man, they still referred someone to me that was able to provide a solution to me. And chances are the second time around, or if there's someone else that they know, they can then refer that client over, right? Full circle, centers of influence, and saying, you know what, that person couldn't help me, but they still helped me accomplish whatever it was.
Yeah.
Talk to them first, because if they can't help you, they probably have someone who can help you. Yeah. And a lot of people don't look at it like that. It's like, right, they're holding on to it. I need to do this, or I can't reject it. I can't get rejected. I have to find a way to make it happen. And it's like, no, just listen and see how you can make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, all of that.
And
Thanks, Dan.
in your example, Dan, like, it's so fantastic because all of those people that answered with, you know, buy my tool, sign up for my course, do all of this kind of thing, if they had approached it the way that you had, that lady isn't yet ready for any of those tools, but she might get to a point where she's got 500 people a month that she needs to contact, and she doesn't have to personally email each of them anymore. And she might need that tool or that course or whatever else, but she's never going to think of it at that point because he didn't solve the problem that she was facing in the moment. They didn't take a moment, the 20 minutes, the 15 minutes to ask her what it is. And it is different.
From my point of view, it's like, I'm going to be slightly weird here. Okay. Just a little bit weird. My wife is just listening downstairs. She's probably like, oh my God, he's going to go somewhere he shouldn't go.
There it comes.
But I look at things, like I said before, it's about funnels, right? So you get your leverageable product and you connect with people with story and basically don't manipulate, you know, be consistent, be honest, be truthful. Yeah. That's all you need to do. Now, if you look at it from a point of view of funnels, and again, like I said, big fan of funnels, not a fan of manipulative funnels, but a big fan of funnels in general.
Yeah.
It's the pain aware, problem aware, solution aware people, like exactly what you were saying, when people are coming into Radio Shack. I'm so sad that doesn't exist anymore. when they go into Radio Shack, honestly, Short Circuit was like my best favorite film for like most of my childhood. You know, and I can picture vividly now him kind of like going into a Radio Shack and kind of just fixing himself. And I was just like, God, that did to me.
Sorry.
But anyway, so people walk into a store, and when you look at it, and literally, even if it's just people walking into a store, they're either going to be pain aware, problem aware, or solution aware.
Yeah.
And it's down to you to figure out where they are in that cycle, right?
Yep.
And when I teach sales, and for those people who have heard me speak about this before, you know, you'll probably know what's coming because I find it hilarious. But I teach sales very differently to a lot of people. And the way I teach sales, it is not about funnels, although I obviously explain the methodology and theory behind that. I teach sales in a way that everyone can relate to, depending on what side of the conversation they've been on, because everyone knows what they like and what they don't like. And I teach it by picking up someone in a bar, right? And I really do.
I'm here for it.
So when you pick up someone, let's think about being human, right? And whether it's like someone coming into a Radio Shack, or you picking up someone in a bar, or someone like on a Facebook group or a LinkedIn chat or a live stream like we're doing now, you know, whatever it may be, the method by which someone buys into you and then later buys from you is exactly the same, because people buy with emotion and they justify with some kind of a logical anchor to that decision. Yeah. So if someone buys emotionally into you, then in order to buy from you, I invest in you in some form, they need to have some kind of a logical anchor, because we know as humans that emotionally, you know, we're volatile bags of just flesh and blood and bone, and we don't really trust our emotions because we know we're all over the shop if we let ourselves be. So we need to anchor that emotion to something that's tangible, right? So like if I went out and I bought a big screen TV, which is an example I always give, and I say to my wife, I bought a big screen TV, it's 65 inches, it can go on the wall, it's massive, and I love it. She'll be like, babe, you're nuts, take the fucking thing back. Right? And she will. She would like have a go at me, and she'll be like, that's not going in my living room. Take it out. Like, not having it. Take it back. But if I said to her, it's a 65-inch TV, the one we've got is like really old. It was a bit funny. It had that weird line down it that, you know, appeared when Samuel threw a ball at it and seemed to disappear when Emma threw the truck at it. But chances are it's going to come back at some point. And I got this new one. It was like 20% discount. You know, I got a 5-year warranty. I got this, I got that. You know, I got all these like different things. She'd be like, okay, so she can't just do what she probably would tell me to take it back because it's 65 inches and the old one was 50. But she would have more to kind of like unpick because she said, well, we don't need a 5-year warranty, and we don't need this and we don't need that. And she'd have to pick through all of that to then make me take it back. She would probably make me take it back anyway, but that's because like, you know, there's a thumbprint on the top of my shiny head. But buying with emotion and justifying with logic. So if we apply that to sales training, or 101 Dan style, if you walk into a bar, you see someone who you find appealing, right? And that could be a service provider, it could be a product, it could be an online course, you know, whatever it may be. The same theory applies. So you see something that you find appealing, and you know, you give that thing a nod or a wink, you know, a like or a click or whatever, you know, a little nod on the wink, you know, a hair flick if you have hair, you know. I don't, clearly, not for a long time, but you have some kind of an engagement, okay? And that's your first step. You know, it's like you saying, hey, I'm here, in a non-weird way. The next step is you have a conversation of some kind. So whether that's you know, what's a girl like you doing a bar like this, or do you come here often, or what do you think of the band, or you know, whatever the opening line is. I can tell you a chat up line, which never worked for me, and I was terrible at this when I was younger, by the way. But I used it a few times, and it never worked. I had to explain it every single time, and basically it was just crickets, and I just got embarrassed and left. My dating life was terrible. This line I used sometimes was, sometimes not every time, was have you ever heard of a 50 stone polar bear? As in 50 stone in weight polar bear. And they were like, no. Like, you sure? Like 50 stone in weight. It's, yeah, quite a heavy polar bear. They're like, you're freaking me out. No. What? I'm like, well, it breaks the ice, doesn't it?
See, in the United States, it's like, stone? What do you mean stone? Do you mean stoned? I don't understand.
It's like pounds.
Yeah, you're just saying a 50 pound. And then
terrible
they have the average weight there? I have so many questions.
But it does break the ice, doesn't it?
Yeah. It does break the ice. Yeah.
But it was terrible. So I wouldn't suggest using that. Anyway, so we have engagement and we start a conversation of some kind. And that's, you know, and that could be the same as reading a sales page, reading a landing page of a website, watching a live stream, you know, whatever. You have a conversation. The point that people fail on a lot of the time is that, you know, if Katie or India, if we were meeting in a bar and, you know, went to the hair flicking and, you know, hey, what's a girl like you in a place like this kind of conversation, and then I sat down next to you without being invited to do so, chances are I'll be told to go away in no uncertain terms or slapped. Because I didn't ask you.
You were not invited.
Exactly.
Get out of here.
Exactly. So, and this is where a lot of people struggle with it. And exactly what India was saying, going back to the Radio Shack conversation, was if you ask someone, you know, get the hair flick moment, you know, what brings you to the store today? And someone says, nothing, I'm good, I'm just browsing. Just looking, and you then carry on. Exactly.
Yeah.
You're not asking permission, and you're forcing a conversation that someone doesn't want, and they're not going to be receptive to that. Barriers are going to go up. They're going to tell you to go away, whether that's a back turn or walk off, and they're never going to come back. So if someone says no, then all you've got to say at that point is, no worries. If you need anything, or if there are questions I can answer, I'm right here. Done. In the bar, that would be, no worries. You know, if I see you again sometime, maybe I say hi. Hope you have a good night. That's it. They go on a metaphorical nurturing pile. Your pixel has been tagged, and you can retarget them at a later date. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is so easy when I explain this to people, they're like, some people actually went on like week-long sales training and never explained it in this way. But when you get, however, a yes, it's like, sure, I'd like to get to know you better, or let's sit down, let's have a chat, or can I buy you a drink? Whatever it is. And you sit down and you have a yes to that request, and you sit down with them and you start talking. The only things you need to do is basically connect with them on an emotional level, which you can do through story. This is who I am, this is what I do, but enough about me. This is all about you.
What
so
about you?
About yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because it's all about them. Talk more than you. Sorry, listen more than you speak. As it were.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's all about emotional connection, anchoring the emotional connection to logic. So it would be, my name's Dan. I work with businesses to help them to grow and scale. I'm 38. I'm married. Doesn't mean anything because I'm picking her up in a bar, by the way. She's fine with it.
Right. She's the one that told me to come out to the bar. Right.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But obviously you're honest and you're single at this point, clearly.
Right. Yeah.
But you have anchors for which to tag it onto. So they're thinking, Dan, he seems like a nice enough guy, and he does this, and he does that. He's 38 years old. He's got 2 kids. And then there's like Samuel and Emma. And Samuel's 5, Emma's 3.
Right.
You have these logical things they can anchor it to.
Yeah.
Granted, I'm not going home with anyone on that night, clearly. But so you have emotional connection and logical justification.
Yeah.
And then you have an ask. Whatever the ask will be, whatever the ask will be.
Right.
Ask, because I'm British. Whether that's an email opt-in, my place or yours, swap numbers, go for a coffee date, whatever it may be.
Right.
The ask is at the end.
Right.
And that's it. Like the only thing you have to do, and a friend of mine years ago told me that if a girl decides to go on a date with you, they've already decided they're going to sleep with you. All you have to do is not screw it up.
That's it. It's that simple, right? Oh my God. And it goes back, right? But it goes back. And it's right. And I just spoke about this on my live stream on Saturday. Same exact thing, right? So you hit the nail on the head. You should be listening more than what you're talking, right? Because so for me, right, it goes back to paraphrasing. You listen and then you tell the client, hey, this is what I understand and this is what you're looking for. You repeat their words back to them that they can't say no. Because if you listen and they tell you what they want, so I understand this is what it is that you're looking for. So you're looking to refinance your home and you would like to save $300 to $400 a month, right? So it becomes whatever it is that, they're looking for. Yeah. And so for me, when I outlined it on Saturday, it was when it gets to the point where usually for me as a loan officer, the clients want to know, they want to tell me what they want to do, purchase, refinance, cash out, etc. Then they're going to tell me, they're going to ask what the interest rates are, right? And then once we talk about what the interest rates are based off of their financial scenarios, the last question usually that they ask or we talk about is what the fees are. Once I get to that point that the client is asking me what the bank fees are, I've already gotten you and it's the ask. So when are you sending me your documents? When should I expect your application? Yeah. What is your email address? And here is my website for you to apply. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. That's it. You're having a conversation and you're listening. That's it. You're like you said, you're making it emotional to the client. Oh, wow, your interest rate is 6%. I can save you $600 a month. And that's it, right? Like, it's like the client's like, how much? We need to do this yesterday. I don't know why you didn't do this yesterday, but we're going to make it happen right now. Yeah. Right? That's it.
Exactly. But if we replay that whole scenario, and I'll tell you how people normally do things, which is why they fail and why they get so like screwed up and everything in trying to grow and scale their business.
Right.
Is that they're told by all these others out there that you need to do this funnel hacking, you need to follow my plan, you need to do this framework, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need this tech, you need this system, you need like blah blah blah.
So overwhelmed.
There's massive overwhelm. So, and I'll replay a couple of times. So you could walk into that bar and be like, so I've got to do this and I've got to do that. And they're actually quite a pain. I need to get them to go through an application process. I need to do this and that. I need to qualify that person first. Actually, they might have a pixel tagged to them. So I'm going to staple something to their ass, and follow them around. I'm going to trace that person around from the bar they came to before. I'm going to figure out where they came from so I can actually understand what their motivations are. Oh, shit, they just left. Okay, right. So I'm going to start the whole process again with that person.
Again. Right. It's so true, though. Exactly. It is so true. Yes.
So we do that, or we do the funnel hacking kind of like volume thing, which is we go straight up to the most attractive person in the room, most attractive to us, obviously, and you say, my place or yours. Or we just grab their hand and try and drag them out. And they say, no, it's not for me. It's like, no worries. I'm going to try with your friend. And you go to their friend, do the same thing. Until you get to someone who just happens to want what you're selling, and they say yes, and you go, and you think, same time again next week. And they're like, no, I've got what I need, thanks, bye. And you don't have any repeat custom. And you're like, that is the actual epitome of a transactional based business, which is a commodity business. They're like, yeah, but I'm not a commodity business, I'm a services business. I'm like, yeah, but you're acting like a commodity business. They're like, oh, how do I not do that? It's like, don't drag people out of a bar. Like, oh, okay.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I have so honestly, many notes going on here.
I know. It's true, though. It's so true.
Do not drag people out of a bar.
No.
You need to be,
do not sit next to them unwanted without the invitation. Don't flick your hair unnecessarily. I'm here for it.
People first. Listen.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And when, I guess this is what I learned from venture capital backed businesses and private equity backed businesses is like one of the brands that I started working for. It was this hosting business. And when I joined, there was it was actually 15 when I had the interview. There was actually 12 when I joined. Different independent businesses that this private equity backed group, who was actually Lloyd's Development Capital, which is part of the Lloyd's banking group here in the UK. And they went out and bought just a bunch of global hosting businesses. And they said, right, what we need to do, you as a leadership team need to just merge all of these businesses into as few number of brands as you can. And we've got about 2 years go. And I'm like, what? Okay. But all we did with that, I mean, imagine like 12 different brands, all with their own problems, all with their own like histories, all with their own baggage. And you're trying to like unpick all of that whilst also growing, taking it into scale, and also not having all like the festering like testicles of crap dragging behind them. It was a lot of work, right? And actually it ended up taking like 5 or 6 years to actually get all of that done, because it was just like a mammoth task. But the thing that we did with that was that we literally slashed everything down to the most basic entry level things that we needed to do. So everything got like basic, like real basic. Like even though there were like hundreds of different products across all the brands that you could sell, we only actually went to the market selling one thing, right? Which is similar to, again, to the dating thing. You know, and this was a business that we took from like a 7-figure business to a 9-figure exit valuation. So massive growth, right? But all we did was, instead of selling like hundreds of different products, we sold one, and like one gateway entry. And similar to the dating thing, you don't go into a bar and say, right, so my name's Dan, I do this, I do that. You know, this is my feelings on these 50 topics here. This is how I've done this over here. These are all my stories of life, you know, condensed into 20 audiobooks. You don't do that. You'd be like, my name's Dan, I'm not a dick. And that's your entry point. And then everything else kind of like filters from there, right? And I think that, again, what a lot of people do is they think, right, I need to take my business into scale, and I need to start doing more products and more services. I need to do this, and I need to add all these social media platforms, and I need to do blah, and I need to do X and Y. I'm like, no, you need to do one social platform really well, and you sell one thing really well, and you need to deliver it really well, and you need to not screw it up, and that's it. Like everything else can just like funnel into that. But if you can't do that one thing really well in that one place, i.e. talk to someone you find appealing in one bar and maintain that relationship through to completion, if you can't do that, you're not going to be able to amplify it on scale and get scalable revenue and income from that process. It's just not going to happen.
Right.
And so many people have struggles with, but like these people, they're making like all this money via like all these complicated funnels, and I'm like, they are, but they're not you.
Right.
And they're like, but they're doing it. How are they doing it? It's like, because they're them. They're not you.
Worry about you and what works for you. Right. Yeah.
And
you guys, we are an hour and 15 mark, so we should probably wrap up. So we're sensitive to how late it is in Dan's part of the world. But this has just been an awesome conversation, and Dan, we'll have to have you back to talk through a little bit more about kind of I want to pick your brain a little bit more next time on just scaling, on the scaling side of it, because I think that's the part that a lot of businesses, struggle with. And I certainly have been involved and watched a lot of businesses that had really perfect structure and setup and system and process and people, and try to get too big too fast and try to pull off scale.
Right.
Go down with it. So it would be really great to talk, I think, a little bit more in detail about that.
So when we do that
live next time.
Right, exactly. Hopefully it'll be live. Right, exactly. Yeah.
So when we do that conversation, we will talk about strategy versus tactics.
Yes.
We'll talk about lines of communication.
Perfect.
Efficiency versus effectiveness. And we'll talk about complexity versus complexity versus the construct that is complication.
Here.
So when we dig into all of that,
all right, there you go. There you go. I'm here for it. Yes.
An interesting conversation.
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Dan, for taking the time. I know it was late and you were so great. You were like, no problem, 6 p.m. Eastern. I was like, that's a little late for
right.
you.
Yeah. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning. What time is it over there at the UK? What time is it?
I'm doing it's 9:15 or just gone 9:15 in the evening.
All right. We're not as bad.
But still, right. Yeah.
The stream I'm doing with DJ Strick and Brant on Sunday, that's midnight.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. To be honest, he did say, "Is it not too late?" And I was like, "That's fine." It's like, it was quite late for you. I was like, "No, that's fine." I'm doing this thing with Katie and Ecamm, and India's kind of just be drilling me on lots of techie questions and business questions. It's fine. I mean, no worries. And I looked at it afterwards, and I'm like, "Oh shit!"
Fresh and
you're like, okay, now you got to stay awake for this stuff. Exactly. That's funny.
Well,
I have like toothpicks. My children is going to come in the room probably naked, because they always seem to. Or someone's going to be demanding, some kind of late midnight snack. Or I'm just going to say, "Daddy, I need a poo poo."
Yeah.
Something weird's going to happen, I'm sure.
That's okay. How it always goes. Every time that we go live with, usually my favorite moments are when I get to live stream with Stephanie Liu, because her daughter and my daughter are the same age, and it's inevitable. It's inevitable that one of them is going to come in. Probably both of them. They now are friends with each other, so like they'll see each other and then immediately want to play Minecraft. Like the whole thing is down.
Nice.
It's not right. The second they see,
can I share with you something funny?
It's game over.
So just about that, I'll share with you something that I found hilarious before we go, because my son Samuel, he's so innocent, bless him, and obviously the way a 5-year-old's mind works, it doesn't work like an adult's. And we were out walking around. It's a place local to where I live. There's a lake and some woods, and we were walking around there with Michelle and I, my wife and I, and 2 kids. So Samuel and Emma were on their scooters, and they were like off they were going. And Samuel I had to have a word with him, obviously, because he got way too far ahead than I was comfortable with. And it's not like dodgy or anything. And when we caught up with him, he was just waiting next to the car park for us. And I'm like, "Samuel," and we obviously had the conversation about not going too far, and he's like, "Yeah, sorry," because he just he loves scooting, and he goes. He's fine.
Went right. Yep.
And I said, well, Emma needs a wee, so we need to go home. So Emma can have a wee, because Emma's like 3, and she's got like a bladder control of an 18-year-old.
Right.
And I was like, do you need to go yourself? And he's like, "No, I've just been." What? Just been? Just been for a wee. It's like, where? And he goes, "Against the tree, like I normally do."
No, like I normally do. Wait.
Hang on. I was like, what tree? And he said, "That one." Right, and he pointed at the tree, literally right next to the entrance to the car park, with all the other cars that were parked around there, people like walking back and forth and everything. I'm like, "Did anyone see?" He goes, well, that little boy over there and his daddy, they were watching me.
No.
I was like, okay. I was like, you remember like Winkies are private, and you can have a wee when you're with mummy and daddy in the woods, but not when people can see. And he's like,
right.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So I shouldn't wee next to the tree there. And I was like, no, Bubba.
No.
Let's not do that. And he's like,
right.
Oh, okay. And he goes, can I have a snack? I was like,
Next topic. Okay, Dad, got it.
Yeah.
Won't do it again.
Yeah.
Sure.
It just made me laugh so much. Like literally, it was just like a sapling. Just had like we up here. He had a competition with himself to get height and everything. And he was doing
my God.
the entire public.
Yeah. I would love to tell you that my 6-year-old daughter is better than that, but she's not. She would 100% walk into the room and say like the most private possible things that she could imagine. Just totally normal. Just like as if it's just totally
Whatever.
normal
Yeah.
conversation.
No care in the world.
Yeah.
No care in the world.
I love kids.
She's fully naked.
They're so
like,
funny.
she just, and you're like, well, here we go. It's like video everywhere these days, but hey, why not? Oh, goodness. Well, I wish
these
we
conversations.
had that level of enthusiasm for scooting and peeing in the public.
Right.
And all sorts of things.
Yeah.
I admire
That's so
it.
funny.
I admire it. Well, have an amazing night, Dan. We'll see you in the group. I just joined your group, so I'm excited to learn more from you and pick your brain.
I didn't even talk about that.
Yeah, we will definitely post. We will post a link over to it so that people can get a little bit more information about it.
Go ahead.
We'll group share. We'll be
right. Exactly.
We'll be in your group. It'll be nonstop.
Feel free. Just fill it up with a couple of thousand members, and I'll be fine.
We got it.
There you go. Exactly.
The people will come. Provide valuable, helpful content.
That's what we said. They'll come eventually.
And I just have to make sure I don't screw it up until they. Oh no, that's not the funnel that I'm talking about.
That's so funny.
Well, until next time, Ecamm Entrepreneur folks who are watching on the replay, we will get this sorted out next time. I believe we're back in 2 weeks, so keep an eye out for our next scheduled live with more information on who we'll be talking with and what subject right here on LinkedIn. Bye, India.
All right, guys. Bye, guys.